Hey gang, it's Ryan here with the Under the Log podcast. In today's episode, we're talking to Kristen Apple about her recent GORUCK Tough Basic Battle of the Bulge event. Among other things, Kristen's going to talk to us about her why she was there. And let me tell you, it is a fantastic why. I think you're going to love listening to her stories, and so stick around for this episode of Under the Log. Before we get to today's episode, I want to ask you to visit ruckingchallenges.com. Every month we post a new rucking challenge, and you can sign up for an individual event or grab one of them really sweet subscriptions, and you'll be signed up every month. Earn a patch, do some sweet rucking. Check it out, ruckingchallenges.com. It's a great way for you to show your support for the Under the Log podcast. With that, let's get on to our interview with Kristen Apple. What's up, everybody? I got Kristen here. Kristen, thank you for coming on the show today. Just to get started, could you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself? Name, the event you just completed, and maybe just a little bit about your life outside of GORUCK.
Sure. My name is Kristen Apple, born and raised in southwestern Pennsylvania, about 35 minutes from Pittsburgh. Wife and a mom of two terrific girls. I just completed Battle of the Bulge Tough Basic out in Columbus with a pretty cool group of people. Outside of GORUCK, I've only been doing that for about a year now. Outside of GORUCK, I do boxing fitness. I play softball. I've been playing all my life. I actually get to coach my daughter now, which is a really cool thing.
Nice.
And I like to lift weights and, throw some weight around. So it's good. I love being active, and thankfully we have a really good ruck club that's local here, and Steel City Ruck Club. They're just awesome people. So
yeah, Steel City is
yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So you said you've started coaching your daughter in softball. So it's a sport that you've played, that you love, right, and now you're coaching your daughter. So I did the same thing. I grew up playing soccer, love soccer, played all my whole life, and I've coached both of my younger boys. How is that going for you?
Oh, I love it. I love being there and watching her grow, because it's my older daughter, my 8-year-old. She started playing 2 years ago, and they were looking for coaches, and I'm a self-employed massage therapist, so I can make my schedule however I want it. So I was able to work the practices around my schedule, work my schedule around the practices, and seeing her take into a sport that obviously is a pretty big passion of mine if I've been playing it for so long. And it's just so neat to watch and to see her start to grow and love that, and to get a little more intense, and to see that skill set start to build. And it's a blast. I love it. That's
fun. So are you like coaching the whole team by yourself?
No, I'm just an assistant coach. I don't want all that responsibility. So.
Yeah.
Leave all the big decisions to him. I mean, it's 8U, so it's not too bad. It's still just the basic skill sets. But
yeah. Well, I know coaching under-8 soccer was like herding cats. Like,
yes,
holy cow,
yes.
It's both fun and like, what in the world are y'all doing? Like, get over here.
Right. And I laugh because her head coach, he is also a coach for baseball, and he's used to coaching high schoolers. So he started whenever our daughters were 6U, and trying to teach them mechanics and things, getting the basics down. He said something about arms being in a field goal post, and the girls looked at him like he had 3 heads. I
don't know what that
they're
means.
5 and 6-year-old girls. They have no idea what a field goal post is. So, I mean, even being from Southwest PA and us being big into football, that's still I don't think they knew.
Oh man, I bet there's a lot of great stories there. But we're here to talk about GORUCK and all good things GORUCK. So you just did the Battle of the Bulge Tough Basic, which that's awesome. But I don't think this was your first event or even your first back-to-back. So what's kind of your GORUCK story? You said you've been rucking and doing this for about a year. Like what other events have you done and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so my first one was right before everything shut down last March. It was literally the weekend before they shut everything down. It was H.R. Valley Light with Cadre Soul Crusher Sanchez. Oh man, that was a good one to start out with. He definitely liked to put us through some good paces. But I had a good group around me, and it was awesome to start out with such a good event. And then I did another one in August with Cadre Fagan out in Greensburg, and then did the 9/11 out in Shanksville, which talk about a really moving experience. Having never been out there, and I mean we're only about 2 hours away from Shanksville, and it was unbelievable. Just that emotional feeling that you get when you're there and thinking about what those people went through, and it was pretty neat.
I mean, even just listening to you say that, like I just got goosebumps all up and down my arm.
Right.
Like 9/11 events are just, if you're listening and you've never done a 9/11 event, like that has to be on your to-do list. And I would highly recommend, if you have the means, to do either a Shanksville, a DC, or a New York. Like being on those sites, it's just it's unbelievable, isn't it, Kristen?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. It is an indescribable feeling. I mean, you can say all you want about, wow, you admire these people for the sacrifices that they made, and what a sad event it was, just all of it all together. But to be there, to be where all of these things went down and where so many people lost their lives, like I said, indescribable. You have to be there to really understand it.
Gosh, oh, like I can't even get those goosebumps to go away just thinking about that.
Right.
That's awesome. And so, the Tough Basic. This was your second. You had done the zombie before.
Did the zombie in October with Cadre Steve, and that was for my first Tough. Talking to some of the other experienced people people that have earned their bolts and have been doing GORUCK events. And, we have our Ruck Club leader, Caitlin, who is, a complete badass, and she has done team assessment, and she went to do the brag double heavy. So for her to say this was one of the hardest toughs that she's ever done, I think it was top 3 is what she told me.
Wow. And that was your first Tough?
Yes, my first Tough.
So you were like, if I can do this, I can, bring it on from here on out.
Yes, pretty much. That was kind of the mindset after that. It was like, all right, well, if I finish this one and I like to think that I finished well, like talking to some of the other people that completed the event and asking, their opinions on, like, was there, something I could have done better? Because that's ultimately, it's a, team-based event. And what I did as an individual, if it didn't help the team, it doesn't matter. So I wanted to get some feedback from people, and they said that I did really well. So that's
really cool. Like I've never, so I'm real self-reflexive after an event. I typically will write an AAR and post it on ruck.beer or whatever.
Right.
But I'm always kind of internalizing, like, how did I interact with people? Did I lift up the team? How did I interact with the person that was struggling? How did I interact with the person that was just a pain in the ass for everybody? Like, and I kind of look into myself, but I don't think I've ever asked anybody else, like, was I a good teammate? Like, what could I have done better? Like, that's really cool. Is that something that you've done before, or was that?
I try to, yeah. I always look for feedback. In my job, obviously, people will tell me if I'm doing a good job as a massage therapist, if I make them feel better, if their muscles are, feeling better, if I took away whatever pain or ailment they were complaining about.
Yeah.
So I like to have that verbal feedback and know what I can do better. So
that's really awesome. I want to do that after my next event. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to hear because, maybe that's, I don't know, maybe is that attention seeking for me? I don't know, trying to get that feedback. I'd like to think that it's more so to try and better myself than to, fish for compliments. But
yeah. Well, I think it's like anything, there's that balance there. Like, it can be self-seeking, but, hopefully in that it's not just accolades. Like, no, no, no. Like, what is the one, even asking maybe like, what is the one thing that I could have done better?
Right.
Because people are going to naturally be like, oh, you did great. Way to go. Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. But like, where did I suck?
Right. Yes. Yes, absolutely. You really do have to look at yourself and be able to see where those weaknesses are so you know where to train.
That's awesome. So I want to say that, I just kind of reached out to folks. I had posted on the Ruck.beer Instagram, who's done a Battle of the Bulge recently, trying to find people to interview. And you had reached out. And so typically I just send people a link that says, awesome, here's a link to my calendar. Let me know when we can talk. Mm-hmm. And on there's this little box that says, is there anything that I need to know that would help me prepare for our interview? And most people just put something like, hey, can you send me the questions in advance so I know how to prepare? Or some people just like, write, this is the event that I did. Some people leave it blank. But I opened up yours, and I mean, I read what you wrote in that box, and like my jaw dropped. Like literally, I walked into the living room and I looked at my wife and I said, you're not going to believe this. I was like, this is going to be so awesome to talk to Kristen, because what you did in that box is you shared with me your why for doing this this event. And in GORUCK events or in endurance events in general, and anything that you're doing that's really difficult, having that why, that thing that motivates you, that when you hit that dark spot of an event, when you feel like, man, I just don't want to keep going, or I don't want to do, or I don't think I can do another rep, you turn to that why, like, why am I here? And like notoriously, I suck at coming up with whys. I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know, because I'm here. Right. But your why for this event was so amazing. So share with us your why, and maybe talk a little bit about how that motivated you throughout the event.
So when I was looking towards 2021 and the events that I wanted to do, this one spoke to me specifically because my grandfather, my papu, he was actually captured as a POW in Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
So pretty crazy. He was a paratrooper. And
wow.
They were dropped, obviously, behind enemy lines to try and break up the advances. And they assumed that they were going to be just, close combat, hand to hand. They didn't assume any artillery. At least the intel didn't show that there was any heavy artillery that was coming. And they were wrong. And there were tanks everywhere. And thankfully, my grandfather obviously was taken alive as opposed to taken, they took his life. So took him as a POW, and for about 6 months, actually, he was in that camp, and right across from one of the furnaces, and that was his job, was to dig the mass graves for poor souls that were taken so violently over there. And but he actually, while he was there, befriended one of the guards that was in charge of, feeding them, and he would bring him extra table scraps. And so thankfully, the way that things happened, I guess when everything started kind of falling off and they started making, the Allies started making their way towards where he was, the ammunition was running low for the Germans, and they were able to, they were scared about the combat that they were going to run into. So the Germans just fled. They didn't want to waste the bullets on taking the lives of their POWs. So they just fled. So my grandfather, they spared his life. So
that's unbelievable.
Right. Crazy, isn't it? Just to think about that.
So you like when did you learn that about your grandfather?
Actually, ironically enough, shortly before I started looking at the 2021 events, my dad posted something on Facebook about it. He posted a picture of him in his uniform, and his brother, my great uncle, was also in the Army and also fought in the war. So he posted something about it and said something about Battle of the Bulge, and that was where my papa was taken as a POW. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then as I'm looking through the list of events, and I saw that, and it was in Columbus, and we're 3.5 hours from Columbus. I'm like, I got to do it. Like, this is, I have to. There's no other choice. This is the way I'm going to start 2021.
Oh man. So growing up, you didn't know that he had been a POW?
So I knew he was. He passed away before I was born. It was actually, I think, a couple months after my older brother was born. So February of 1980. And I wasn't born until October 81. And I heard stories, I saw pictures, and I knew that he was a POW for 6 months, but I didn't know when he was captured. I didn't know where he was captured. I knew none of that. So all that kind of came to light towards the end of last year.
Wow. So did you reach out to your dad and you got to tell me all about this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I wanted to be able to come into the event and be able to talk to Cadre Hand, and actually Cadre Mocha Mike was there too. And I wanted to be able to tell his story and tell my why and be able to give a little background on it.
Oh, so, man. So what was that like doing the event and kind of having that in the back of your mind throughout it? Like what did that feel like?
Oh, it's a motivator for sure. Like you said, when you have that point in time, whenever you're going dark and you're thinking, man, it's cold, man, I'm tired, oh, this weight is heavy, I could just quit right now. I don't want to do one more rep. I don't want to take one more step. I don't want to hold this, sandbag for any longer. I just want to be done. And then you have that in the back of your mind. You think, this is nowhere near, the sacrifice that my grandfather and so many people made. Nowhere near the torture that they were put through and the conditions that they had. I mean, it was cold, in Columbus. Yeah. It was like 16 degrees overnight, but it was nothing. It wasn't feet and feet of snow with, gear that was less than stellar by today's standards now. Oh my gosh, our cold weather gear is just unbelievable anymore. And we were prepared for it, whereas there was no threat to my life that night.
Right.
It gives you that extra push when you have that, like you said, your why, when you have that in the back of your mind and you're thinking, geez, if they did this, if they put their lives on the line, if they were willing to sacrifice, I can take that next step. I can, take that weight for, another 50 yards or whatever. I can take my turn on, whatever the heavy carry is. So
that's such an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. It was pretty neat
to learn about. Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. That was so fun to learn about from my dad. And like I said, obviously he came out on the better end of it. I mean, they lost about 40 pounds during that time, but he was able to come home. That was, and I always thought it was really cool. My grandmother, my yaya, she never lost hope. Like everyone, she didn't hear from him for 6 months. What are you going to think?
Oh man,
but she was always her faith was so strong, and she always knew. She's like, he's alive, he's gonna come home. My Jimmy's gonna come home. So,
so your grandfather passed away before you were born. Did you know your grandmother growing up?
Oh yeah. My yaya, she was awesome. So they are first generation who came over from actually Greece and Asia Minor. Wow. So we were really fortunate to have her. She lived to be almost 96. Yeah. And what I thought was really special about her too, I mean, she came from a generation where obviously when you married for life, that was it. Yeah. And she lost my grandfather at such a young age. And she never even thought about remarrying. She just learned to do all these things on her own. Like, she was so tough when it came to fixing up their farmhouse or fixing up steps or doing these things. Like, she was just so independent and so strong and such a huge role model for me. So we were really, really fortunate to have her around for so long.
That's awesome. That's like the second time in this interview I got goosebumps, man. Your yaya got me. That's awesome.
Yeah, she was a pretty incredible person.
So this is the part of the podcast where I shamelessly plug ruckingchallenges.com. You love rucking, you love a challenge. It's a match made in heaven. Every month we have a new rucking challenge that you can do on your own or with a ruck club, and here's the real deal. Since this podcast doesn't make me any money, you signing up on ruckingchallenges.com convinces my wife that this isn't a complete waste of my time. So do your part to keep Under the Log alive by signing up at ruckingchallenges.com today. So the event, Tough Basic. So you're actually the first person that I've talked to that's done a basic since GORUCK's kind of made this little format change of going from a light to a basic. Now you've obviously, you started off doing 3 lights, you did a tough light, so you know kind of what a light feels like.
Right.
For those who are wondering like how things have changed, like did you feel like there was much of a difference between the light and the basic?
I think with us, specific to what Cadre Hand had in mind, he really wanted to do the Robbie Miller WOD during the basic. And so that was a big focus for him, more so than Miles or any other PT. So once we got out of admin, it was basically just about, get the movement to get to where we wanted to do the Robbie Miller WOD and making sure we were able to get it done in time. So nice. I thought that was a lot of PT I know it was part of the movement or whatever, but compared to the lights that I've done in the past, that was the most amount of PT that I've ever done.
Okay. So, Robbie Miller, that's a lot going on in that one.
Right. I mean, you figure, I think we did it, I think our time cap was 45 minutes we had to do it under. So, I mean, that's 45 minutes of solid PT. I've never done that at an event. I've done that at a light before. So
Nice.
You normally get, your admin and your welcome party, and you get some, like 10, 15 minutes of PT, and at index you might have something, or you might, get punished for not completing a movement in time, not hitting a time hack or doing something wrong, whatever. But that was the most amount of constant PT that I've had. So that I thought that was different. I'm sure other people might have different experiences, but for me, we still had the same amount of coupons that we carried for the tough the night before, with 10 less people to carry them. So we had to really get in on good rotations. That was really important. Thankfully, we had people who had done the tough the night before, so we were able to use the knowledge that we had from the night before and what worked, what didn't. And that at least for me, I think that the more PT was kind of shocking.
Okay.
Other than that, I didn't see too much of a difference.
Okay. So you had this being your second back-to-back event. I think something that people might appreciate, because that's kind of a progression that people go through. Is you maybe took the advanced route by going from lights to a tough light. But for me, I did a tough, and I was like, once I finally got over the shock, I was like, well, let's do the tough and the light next time.
Right.
And so, how did you fill that time between events? What do you think is most helpful, for somebody who's thinking, all right, next thing I want to do is try a tough basic. What's your advice for that in between time?
Honestly, because I don't need that much sleep, being a parent, you kind of learn how to function on very little. I went home. I went out to eat with a group of guys from the Columbus Ruck Club, and we got a nice big meal of protein and tried to re-energize ourselves. And then I didn't have a hotel for in between, because I thought, I'm not going to be there for the majority of it, so I'm not going to waste the money. So I went back to my truck and crashed out in the front seat for about an hour and a half or so, then grabbed another bite to eat, stretched out a little bit, and got ready for number 2 for the basic. So
nice.
Yeah, that I know that a lot of people they do foam rollers and stuff like that, and I know I preach that. But I'm a do as I say, not as I do. I know how important it is, and I know how much it helps. But unfortunately, Man, I'm bad about that. I'm
Hey.
bad about the care in between the recovery phase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked for you. You made it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I made it work. It happened. But so I'm shooting for 9/11 for the HTB actually to try and earn my bolts. So I've got to,
What?
yeah, I've got to really try and focus in on and hone in on that recovery phase because
Oh,
I mean
man.
it's one thing to do tough basic, but to go HTB and
Where are you going to
cover.
do it? At Shanksville again, or?
No, we're actually there's a pretty large group of us from Steel City. They're going to go up to New York City, and
Heck yeah.
I mean that's 20th anniversary too. So imagine
Oh,
like it's going to be incredible.
all right. That's the third time I got goosebumps. Like I can't imagine the New York HTB
Oh, me neither. Me
on
neither.
the 20th anniversary. Um, that's awesome, man. I wish you all the best with that. Like, just man, get that done. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're really ramping up the training right now because there's so many of us that we're using that as our opportunity to try and go for our bolts. And there's going to be some people too that have already earned theirs that are just going to be there, for the experience part of it. But yeah, we're really starting to ramp things up training wise and actually doing Ruck Strong, the lift fit
Okay.
program, which it's helping immensely. Like I've noticed a huge increase in strength already just from cycle one. And
Yeah.
I'm doing Pathfinder 2. I haven't talked to a couple people that have done HTLs, HTBs in the past. They said if you really crush indoor, if you really go after it, get your miles, hit all the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be good for the HTB. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do that from now until September. So that's
Whew.
the goal. That's the plan.
That's awesome, Kristen. I can't wait to have you back on the show after you get those bolts.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Under the Log. If you'd like to see show notes, links to stuff that we talked about, or a transcript of the episode, visit us at underthelog.com. While you're there, you can find links to all our social media profiles, and we'd love to connect with you online. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're digging the content, it'd be really cool if you'd leave us a positive rating. And finally, if you've recently completed a GORUCK event and want to chat, drop me a line at ryan@underthelog.com or hit me a message on social media, and we'll get you on the calendar for one of the next episodes of Under the Log. Well, that's it for me. We'll see you next time, Under the Log.